one. Hi, everybody. I've been talking to folks, but you're new because we just turned on the recording. So I'm going to say hello. And we are here at the local authors book club with Johanna Flynn. Now, Johanna is coming in from Olympia. Isn't that something? All this time I thought she was here in Spokane. And she's been joining us in the group for quite a while now. So I'm just thrilled that she's willing to come and talk to us about her books. And um, to get us started, I'm just going to ask Johanna to bide for a second here while I share her. I've got her website that I can pull up and show you. This is her website. I better go to the home page first. But you are a Nancy Pearl Book Award winner. I don't know. I'm not familiar. What is that from? From the PNBA or from Pacific?
Yeah, Nancy Pearl is a librarian, and she does book reviews on NPR.
Uh-huh.
So winning this award was incredible because it's judged or adjudicated by librarians.
Uh-huh.
And so yeah, she apparently she has a bobblehead doll. You're into bobblehead dolls. But yeah, it's pretty amazing. And this one that you're scrolling to, We're with the Band, was a finalist in 2022.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So is it the one that won? No, it's the finalist in 22, you said, and so the other book is the one. I love the other book's copy. I'm gonna go to that page because I love this cover.
Oh yeah.
It's wonderful about it.
Yeah, my cover designer, Amy Sandange, just she nailed it. She just done both my covers,
Uh-huh.
and she really nailed what both of these books are about or what they're like. So I was really just so tickled.
Super, super. Well, in a second here, I'm going to actually ask you to talk about yourself and your books, and she's got an about page and a contact, the typical things that we like to have. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm technologically challenged. I've been trying to figure out how my web designer did such a gorgeous job on it. And then I said, okay, well, so now how do I do this if I want to put stuff in there? And so she sent me, the WordPress thinger, and it's got like this, I don't know, it's got this little critter with a wrench. And
Uh-huh.
I'm going, I don't know what to do with this critter and a wrench. It's like, so anyway, one of these days I'll get in the 21st century and try and figure this thing out. But anyway,
Yeah, I've got several websites, and they're all on WordPress, except my husband's is on a different one. And they are, I've got more than one template that I use. I try to use the same one now, but I'm telling you, this is not an easy program to work with, WordPress. It's fantastic once you figure it out. So for all the writers out there, if you want to take a challenge, just set yourself a time thing, and you don't have to publish until you're ready to. You can just work away on it and figure it all out and all that. So, but Johanna, you're right. That is not an easy program to work on. When did you start thinking about writing? Was that something you did when you were a kid, or?
yeah, I started my first book when I was 10. It was called The Ghost House Mystery, and it was on like the wide line paper, when you're learning to
Oh
do
yeah.
cursive. And I even, pencil illustrations. And I was thinking about that the other day, and I think one of the reasons why I like even tried to do that or started to do that was I was looking around. My name is unusual. And so I'm looking around like, where are there other people like me, maybe? And I read Heidi, which is Johanna Sperry. And I thought, there's another Johanna out there. And so, and she was a writer. And then shortly after, I read and loved Little Women. Well, guess what? Joe. Of course, I wanted to be Amy, but that doesn't matter. And so I think that sort of was the very beginning of it. And then in high school, I wrote really bad poetry and read a lot of Salinger and was editor of the school newspaper. And when I went off to college, I majored in history and English with the idea that I was going to write the great American novel.
Uh, yeah, yeah. Aren't we all?
So, yeah, don't we all? I'm still waiting to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Me too.
So yeah, and then let's see, I did my junior year abroad in England and Ireland, and took a creative writing class from an Irish writer who's pretty well known over there, Benedict Kiley. And I wrote a short piece, a satire on Little Red Riding Hood, and he really liked that. And he said he submitted it to the Irish Times. I don't know whatever happened with that, but I was really pretty tickled that here's this author that liked my short stories.
Uh-huh.
So then after that, I came back and transferred schools and went up to the University of Alberta in Edmonton. And so I was signing up for classes, and this was, I'm really dating myself. This was back in the day where you signed up in person and it wasn't like by computer. So I thought, oh, I'd like to take some creative writing. So I marched up to their table and I said, hi, I want to sign up for creative writing, not knowing, and they didn't catch it, that there was a prerequisite that was required. But oh well, I got into it and I started to take the class, and the class was taught by a Canadian author, Rudy Weeb. One of his books, The Temptation of Big Bear, was turned into a movie. So here I am, and I'm in this class. I had no idea about craft or form or any of that stuff, and I'm just kind of doing my thing and writing short stories. And then at the end um, of the year, if you wanted to take an advanced course, you needed to have greater, like a stay nine, well, they were on a stay nine system. So their grading system was like 1 to 9, and you
Uh-huh.
had to have better than a 7. I had a 6. And so I was absolutely devastated. And I thought, oh my God, oh my God. So I went back, I went to Rudy on my hands and knees, and I said, okay, I know I'm not good enough for the advanced class, but can I please take the beginning class over again? And he let me in.
Wow, that's great.
So it was an amazing experience. They had a week-long conference where they had all these amazing Canadian writers that were there. I canceled school for a week and lived there. It was just unreal.
Uh-huh.
And then after that, I graduated and came back to the States, and time went by. I had to get real, and I figured, right, I don't think I had um, self-confidence to be able to pursue it.
Right.
Weeb had said to the class, of all of you, only 2% are ever going to really go on with this. So I listened to that, and I didn't have the confidence. So it was really not until, well, I went back to school and got my master's, and my thesis won a research award. So, I mean, it's like I could write, but anyway, went to Florida, and this is where I finally started to learn my craft. Was I joined a critique group in Florida and I started to write a novel and did short stories. And then my husband and 2 boys and I moved to the Illinois area, and we were up in the Chicago area for 10 years. And again, being a mom and working and all the rest of it, it went by the wayside. So it really wasn't until, but it was always there. It was always there what I wanted to do. But of course you have to earn a living. So came back here to Pacific Northwest and in the Olympia area. And finally, I guess it was around 2005, and I took was called the practice of writing this class, and it was about establishing a habit. And it was there that I wrote this short story called How Maud Saved the Block, and that became the kernel for Hidden Pictures.
Oh,
And so basically it took me, what, 2005 till I published it in 2019. But I was working full time. But then I got it that I really, I realized in 2005 that I had to do it.
uh-huh.
That my dad would sit at the dinner table and he would, you know, entertain all of us about how, the plays he was going to write. And I realized, and then he died in 2006. And he never did. And
Yeah,
I thought, you know what? It's not going to happen until I sit down and actually do it.
yeah, yeah.
So that's what I
Well,
did.
that's great because I think a lot of people that are going to watch this video are going to appreciate that information. We've got some folks out there in the world that are sort of beginners and they're not sure what's happening. So this will be very helpful for them. It's encouraging to hear stories
Just
of people that hung in there, kept it going. What is that first book about?
Hidden pictures.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'm asking the question, what does it take to create change in a community that is mired in tradition? And so this comes out of having lived in outside of Chicago for 10 years and being in some ways a kind of an outsider, it gave me that ability to really kind of see, especially this community that was over 100 years old. And the house we lived in was over 100 years old. And how that community was. And so it's about that, but it's also at the base, it's about bullying and change. And how do you do that? How do you change?
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I really loved my main character, Gordon. Um, he became very, I don't know about all of you guys, but do you have your characters that are like in your head all the time? I mean, I'm not all the time, but I mean, you've got these characters that are just kind of there, and then they become their own person in a sense. That when you really know your character, you can put that person anywhere, that character, and you will know how that character is going to react wherever
Right.
you put them. And that's what Gordon was for me.
Wow, that's neat. And what about your more recent book?
Oh, we're with the band. Oh my God, that was so much fun to write. I had the best time writing that book. Um, I got this idea. Um, oh geez. There was a documentary that came out. I think it was called 20 Feet from Stardom, and it was about backup singers. And I wondered about that. What would that be like? And then my just happened that my oldest son was in school, in med school in Ireland, and I had been a student in Ireland, and that was remember I went my junior year, and so I was in Dublin for the second half of my year, and so we went over to visit, and I started wondering about all of that. And it really struck me when we were there about how much the country had changed with the Celtic Tiger, which the Celtic Tiger was this incredible amount of growth that happened very, very quickly in Ireland. And
How about I
so,
pull up the gallery that you have, and you can keep talking because it will be,
oh, okay, yeah.
let's
Um,
see if it'll, is it,
what struck me, there's this one day, um, and we were in Dublin, and this woman came out of the bank, and she was Chinese, and she spoke with an Irish accent. And my son's roommate, his family had prior generations had come from East India. And so that's kind of what got me wondering, well, what does it mean to be Irish in post-Celtic Tiger Ireland? Oh, this picture that you just showed of the cows, that's
Yeah,
right near where the bog snorkeling championship happens. There is actually a thing called a bog snorkeling championship, and I went to it. So I was, I was starting to play around with the idea of a mystery. What would happen if a bog body got stolen from a museum? I mean, it's kind of an outrageous thing. And it just sort of started to fall into place, this romp of, what if Tina Fey and Amy Poehler got hired as backup singers in a band? But what if the band isn't very good? And so it just sort of all of that stuff fell into place. Oh yeah, there's the bog. This is a bog snorkeling championship. And basically what you do is you jump in that water and people are wearing like flippers and snorkels and you're supposed to go all the way down this trench thing with all this gunk in it to the end and back again as quickly as you can.
I'd want to go pretty quick.
There she is.
Wow. I think I saw this on a travel show sometime.
Did
They
you?
showed these
Did
people.
you?
That's a torque from the National Museum in Dublin.
Wow.
And so, again, what would, and if this stuff got stolen? And then what if my character's about to turn 50 and
Uh-huh.
it's not going too well? This is Grafton Street. I was very disappointed. They've got like a McDonald's on it and a Disney store. I mean, now they have that, but when I was a student, they didn't.
That's pretty cool. Thank you for these
Yeah.
pictures. This is great.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that of course one of our other authors on here, Janet, she's written quite a bit of Celtic stuff and she's somewhat, I think, familiar with a lot of these things. I don't know. I think she disappeared. Either that or she got kicked off. You talk about the technology, and it's amazing how often we get bumped back and forth on this thing. But maybe she'll come back in. Well, I don't know. Do people have maybe some questions that you'd like to ask Johanna about her writing? And here's Janet. She's coming back. Good old Janet, we got you back.
There she
Yeah,
is.
sorry.
I was just saying how you had written a lot of things along similar lines and, similar part of the world. And
In Wales, yes, in Wales. I have to use my phone for these meetings, and my husband was calling, so that's why I had to leave for a minute. But I'm back. I love that
Yay.
part of the world. It's awesome. It really is.
So-
My characters, however, are trying to hold on to the past, not move into the future modern world. So a little different approach.
So and yours take place in Wales?
Yes. North
Wow.
Wales.
Ah, okay. It's beautiful over there.
It is. It is.
I have a feeling it's green. That's the only thing I always think about. Okay, Ireland and the hills and sometimes you see pictures and stuff and travel stuff on TV, and it just looks green. Is that?
It is green. It is green, and you fly over it and you look down and you think, oh, it's green. But there's a lot of rocks and a lot of sheep too.
Yeah. And lots of little squares, from up in the you look down and see all these little
Oh,
squares.
yeah, the different farming squares, like with the
Yeah.
kind of crop.
Yeah.
But they insist on growing only green stuff, apparently. Either that, maybe an occasional bit of yellow or tan.
It's all the rain.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're kind of at a Q&A time, and I want to welcome encourage Johanna to continue with whatever narrative she might give us about her writing and her history. Are you working on something now, Johanna?
I am. Okay, so I'm really interested in people's approaches. The first two books were were pantser books. Hidden Pictures just sort of arrived, kind of all one thing. Whereas right now I'm working, it's turning out to be a series. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna try plotting. Because I was doing NaNoWriMo. And NaNoWriMo doesn't, it's hard to, for at least I found it was hard to be a pantser and do NaNoWriMo without, I mean, it just was hard to make the word count. So I thought, okay, I need to learn and grow. So I'm going to try plotting. So I did. And so I'm working on a series now called Hemp. And it started out as a single book, then became a trilogy, and now it's going to be 4 books. I was really interested in kind of my elevator pitch is saving the world can ruin a town. And so I'm looking at a little town that's dying and characters that I'm following. And so each character is going to get their own book. That come into that are either living in this town or they come and live in this town, and they're growing, they grow hemp, but it's like one of them is growing hemp because they have a boutique company for their clients are people who have epilepsy, and hemp has been CBD is the thing that comes out of hemp that has been shown to be really helpful with that. So I'm kind of looking at all of that right now. And
Have you started the actual writing yet, or are you still doing research?
no, I've written, I've got probably 3 of them done. This is this whole thing of plotting when I got done, and I had 2 characters I really liked, and then there was this third, and I thought, okay, either I have to dump her or I've got to give her her own book. So I decided, because I really liked her, that I'd give her her own book. Well, now I had a chunk that was the end, and so I've had to back in backwards to get the story arc to work. And I've been whining about this for probably 2 years now. So but I'm so excited. I finally got an end that I like. And so now it's going to be the hard work of going back and doing all of the nitty gritty editing.
So the end can make sense, right?
Yeah.
That had to be hard to do.
I'm sorry?
That had to be hard to do.
Yeah, backing into it. And in order to make it work, I had to make her an adolescent. And while with Hidden Pictures, I've got Olivia is an adolescent, and I can write adolescent, but I hadn't initially started to do that because, now I'm thinking of kind of the business end of it, where it would fit in a bookstore, who's going to be my market, all that sort of stuff. And I'm thinking, oh.
Yeah.
But it's the way I have to do it to make it work. So we'll see what happens.
Well, good luck with it.
Thank you. I am really interested if other people want to jump in. I've been thinking about how writing and the genres have changed and what you guys are seeing. I mean, I think what stimulated it for me, I was looking at or thinking about like World War I and how that really the experience, especially the writers who had in World War I, and how that changed the genre, and I'm just curious about what people are thinking, or if they're looking at what does that look like, our changes that are happening here now so quickly. What do you think, or do you see happening with writing, the evolution of writing as a craft?
Well, real quick, I'm going to throw out one comment, and that's just because I ran into it recently in some industry information. And it was just in passing. They've said it's interesting that it's as though not thrillers like we think of them traditionally, but thrillers are now being incorporated into almost every genre. So it's like it's become a sort of an approach. So it doesn't matter if people are writing, romance or they're writing historical fiction or whatever, but people are putting a thrilling element into it. Now, they didn't say why they thought that was happening, but so that's one.
So why do you think that is? Oops, sorry, Janet.
Nope.
Well, I'm sure it has to do with the market, that we've reached a point where we're so, I won't say addicted, but people want excitement. They want the tension. They've discovered the adrenaline rush, and they want that kind of thing going on. And then, of course, you have other readers and people who say, well, I'm trying to get away from that. So it'll be interesting to see how it, plays out for those reasons. You put thrills in your stuff, Janet?
I think it is, yeah. But it's easy to do with mysteries, I think, for the most part. Yeah, kind of a blend. I mean, there's romance in mine too. There are mysteries, there's romance, a little bit of a thriller, a little bit fantasy even. So I guess I blend them all.
Yeah, I like that about your book.
Thank you.
You're not, they're not, they don't just knock you over the head with one genre sort of approach. Because life to me is not like that. I mean, we seldom are around people that are just being chased through the woods and threatened by
Right.
the mafias out to get them or whatever. We're around people that experience life in all of its permutations, and one person may have a, well, I'm going on, I don't need to, but anyway, I like it when it's kind of mixed up.
To me, it's important because the characters are important, the characterization, and they have to have a life beyond just the plot of the story if they're going to be fleshed out. So,
Good point.
I have to have those other things in there in order to develop the characters the way I want to.
That kind of makes it hard, I find, with deciding what genre you've even written something in. I mean, somebody asked me about my series about the Mennonites in Russia during the Russian Revolution. And I guess my elevator pitch was Forrest Gump stumbles through winds of war. I mean, that was my elevator pitch. I didn't have anything better.
Well, you guys are not alone, because the majors are having difficulty. The poor editors, I don't know, they're trying to promote their books and they don't know which ends up either. So they're trying to, it's sort of they'll send out a thing to me and it's kind of a this with a little bit of that and sort of a bit of this whooshed in, and we think you're going to love it. And so I'm like going, oh, okay, well, we're covering,
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I've been editing or not editing, critiquing a series of books, and the author is an Australian author, and she does, I mean, it's murder mysteries and it's modern day, but it's actually it's urban fantasy. So they just combine those two, and I'm like, oh, I'm really crazy about urban fantasy, but I love the mystery portion of it. So it got my attention.
Mhm.
I have a question. Johanna, are you traditionally published or did you self-publish?
I ended up indie publishing, and
Okay.
I tried the agent kind of route thing. And one of the things that I kind of did the pros and cons, and it takes so long for anything to get out when you go traditional. I mean, and then also the whole thing um, of earning your advance back and all of that, the contracts and all of that. I just thought, maybe I'm a control freak, but um, it just I just, after trying it and I'm thinking, no. So,
Yeah, I'm in the same kind of situation. I started my own publishing company so I could keep creative control. The first two books I did, I lost creative control because I didn't understand the ISBN structure and bought a third party ISBN, and they become the publisher of record. So now, by having my own publishing company, I am the publisher of record.
yeah, I'm thinking about doing that myself. My imprint is a very good friend of mine's. It's her imprint. And when I first started doing this, I didn't really understand that, and so, but we're good friends, so I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. But I understand what you're saying, that it's that whole thing of being of record and that ability of control.
Yeah.
And I've heard so many horror stories from other of my writer friends of, getting sucked into something that they didn't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to scare you or anything, but like you mentioned that she's your friend, and that's great. But if she ever sells the imprint to a company, then your stuff may go with that sale. And so, you know, be careful, folks out there in
Yeah.
recording land.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes. I ran into one. Wasn't able to really check them out very deeply, but it was a hybrid publisher and stuff, and they do most of everything as though they were functioning as a traditional publisher, but they don't do upfront royalties. And so the contract is with them for a large percentage of the sales royalties. And, like I can't remember if it was 50-50 or what it was. So there are so many people searching for ways to have successful publishing in this weird market that we're in now, or we're moving into. When you start talking about 1 million books a year coming out, I mean, I can't even think about that number without wanting to pass out, because it's like, how do you compete that way? So I think that innovative people who are able to carve their way um, through the labyrinth. I'm mixing all sorts of metaphors here, but that's our topic, doesn't it? But people are going to have to find a path through this, and so that's what I'm spending most of my time on, is educating myself to what's going on, so I can try to share that with the guild members and keep you up to date on what's going on. And I can tell you that anybody who might be concerned about the legal ramifications in that, it's not that expensive to join the author guild. And I'm a member there even though I'm not published, because they have different categories. And then if I ever do publish a book, I can move into a different category. But they have lawyers who, one of the services that they provide to their authors that are with them is a review of your contract negotiations, so that you get some feedback about, well, you should ask for this in your contract, and this particular item is dangerous. I wouldn't go there if you can avoid it, if you can get out of that. And so I think it helps have access to the experts. And of course, we have Elena with us, and she's kind of an expert in the editing and end of things, and working with authors and helping them from a literary standpoint, primarily make sure their stuff is up to snuff. But then also, do you want to mention anything, Elena, about?
Well, I was gonna say, I'm also actually our industry expert. With Allegory Editing, we're a boutique editing house. We do developmental copy editing, proofreading, but we also handle query processes. And I am the industry expert, so I work pretty hard to stay kind of up on
Yeah,
the industry side as well.
it's not easy, is it? There's tons of stuff coming out.
Lots of stuff to know.
Yeah, yep. It's like a whole separate career that I never went into. I mean, I just, it's fortunate for me.
It's not too late, Linda.
No, it is too late.
Tell you that.
Johanna, this is as far as I go. But Johanna, you meant that one of the things about you that struck me was you talked about your interest is because you love to connect with people and you're interested in all these wide area topics. That's the way I am. And
Yeah.
so we're buds when it comes to that. We're like this. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate that approach. And well, several of you are like that, but in Elena, you've taught me so much already that I really appreciate it. You've just added to my whole thing there. But we'll see what happens with my writing in the future. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Oh. I think it's hard when you don't want to be pigeonholed.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing that I'm spending the most time on, and I'm like your dad, Johanna, I think you said, sat at the table and talked about, and never got around to it. So hopefully that won't be the case. But I'm looking at, I want to write a memoir, but I want to write it about all the people I've met. And so, well, not all the people I've met, but the ones that would stand out to folks and they'd be interested in everything from government workers to, I mean, people like, some people know or remember Frank Church, for instance. And when he dedicated, was a wonderful senator, and he was responsible for a lot of the wilderness getting set aside in Idaho. And I was with Sierra Club, and when we got the designation for the river down there and the canyon, and it's slipping my mind the actual name of it. Does anybody remember what it's called?
River of No Return.
No, it's think it's
Oh, the Salmon River.
Selway Falls is right next to it, and the dedication anyway. So we went to that, and I've got these wonderful pictures of him that I want to show, that I captured him, and so people who are into that kind of person will enjoy that chapter. And then all the musicians, all the big bands, people that I met, all the big authors that I met and talked with, and my theme is that people treat these folks and think of them as celebrities, and they are. And because of that, they live a life that is, well, wherever they go, people are going to bug them maybe, and maybe sometimes they want to be bugged. I mean, James Woods, when I met him at the store, I heard he was upstairs in the gift shop, and I went up and I stood and waited for him to take care of his business. And he was in town filming a movie with some other people. And so, and I waited till he was coming. I said, "Excuse me, I don't want to bother you, but I would love to get your autograph." And he said, "Oh, thank God." I was beginning to wonder, nobody knew who I was. So it was kind of fun. And so little stories like that I want to share. And he showed me his downstairs, he opened his shirt and showed me his heart surgery scar that went down his chest because he almost died, and talked about his friend Steven Spielberg and how he told, I'll share this with you. He said, "I told Steven," and Steven evidently, when they were going to give him an award, instead he was sitting by his bedside after his surgery. So that's kind of cool. But anyways, I told him, because we were talking about film editing and how valuable that is, because it really can change a movie and it can make or break it. And he said, "Yeah, I told Steven," I said, "if you had put out edited the final version that you wanted to do of E.T., it wouldn't have made it. He said the editors made that movie. And I told him that because what he put out later just stuck. And it was so cool. So stuff like that, you know, but I have to figure out how to do it in a way that I don't want to pay a fortune for legal things up front and having to do this and that. So there I am. Elena, you went off of sound there for a second or off mute. Did you want to say?
Well, yeah, I just had something really quick. I don't know how relevant it is, but what we're seeing in the industry in terms of memoir is that memoir sells when it is the person's individual story combined with something else.
Mhm.
So, for example, it's not a person's experiences with PTSD, it's a person's experiences with PTSD along with a scientific investigation of the changes in the brain and things like that. So where we're interwoven. So what you're talking about is actually super, super relevant to what's successful in memoir today. And then I was going to add that you don't need any permission for anything that happened in a conversation. You only need legal permission if it's a written document that you're using where you have a copyright issue. If it's from a conversation you had with someone, that's fair game for you to write about. So you can think about incorporating things that aren't taken from a written document and you're fine. I mean, the fact that it's a conversation with you, as long as you are accurate and not slandering anybody, you get to write however that conversation happened.
Yeah, my personal feeling is that I don't want to divulge anything I think would be embarrassing for that person or, you know, but I don't think in this case that James would have cared because it's like he was just being right out there about it. And I
If
think
he shared it with you, he's fine with
Yeah.
it being public,
Yeah, I think
right?
so.
Like
Yeah.
that's always a safe bet.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there's some, ins and outs here and there, but but that's what I'm working on, and you're gonna just go horror because I think I'm putting it out as a series off one of my websites first, just as like I would do a blog, and then at some point I'll gather them together and make whatever I'm gonna do with it. So I'm not interested in trying to take over the world and make a lot of money, and I don't want to go to some big trad and say, here, make me a bunch of bucks, because they'll want me to sensationalize it, and I don't want to do that. I just, it's not I want people to understand that we think of them as celebrities, but every one of these people in person is just this real, wonderful, normal human being. And that's what I got from all of them. And so that's what I want to share. And so the sort of thrust of it bothers me that people's lives, sometimes they're put under the microscope in a way, and everywhere they go, and they're followed, and they're, and that's just not cool. A lot of them I didn't take pictures of on purpose because I didn't want to invade they were on their own time. Didn't want to invade I do have one with Kristen Slater because they were filming in the bookstore. And I have a bunch with some of the authors because they were presenting at AMP. I was their intro. So yeah, I've got, plenty of stuff to critify it, but so in case you're wondering what I've been working on behind the scenes all along, that's it.
Well, it sounds exciting though.
Yeah, well, I have fun writing mysteries and stuff, but I get about this far in and go, yeah, next one, and I'm off on something else. So I'm just not a good fiction writer. I really am not. I'm not dedicated like you guys are. So I've taken up a lot of time that wasn't intended. We got another 5 minutes or so before people think they're supposed to go home. Well, I guess you're already at home, right? Margaret,
Right.
do you have any thoughts? Just getting up there nice and quiet and
I just appreciate all of this information. I too am struggling with the publishing part of this process, and all of this information is very helpful.
One thing that really helped me, I guess, when I was looking at all the marketing stuff was, I sat in on whatever, it was a workshop and talking about marketing. And one of the things that they said is, don't try and do it all, and find your comfort level and go from there. And for me, my comfort level has always been the kind of the one-on-one. It's about the relationship. And so once I understood that, I thought, okay, that's the way I'm going to market. Is I love going to book clubs. I love readings in libraries. It's that connection. And for me, that's what it's all about, because that's what my work is about that connection with other people. My books are written with book clubs in mind, the idea of other people getting together and sharing ideas or insights or whatever it is, good, bad, and the ugly.
Here's the bad and the ugly. That sounds familiar.
Marketing right there. I mean, marketers are, I mean, they're a whole different breed. You know, I get people contacting me all the time wanting to market my book. And the first thing out of their mouths is, oh, what genre do you write? I go, you're contacting me off my website and you don't even know what I write? And I says, listen, the first thing a marketer has to do is have read my book. You can't market it unless you've read it. And they'll immediately go away for about 30 seconds and come back and read you the back cover blurb off the website. Oh, yeah, here you are. Goodbye.
Well, most contacts are made. I mean, Elena can tell you this. It's important when you have a direct involvement with something like the guild, because then these opportunities pop up and you're able to, I won't say take advantage, but meld in there in a way that's beneficial to everybody. And of course, Elena's also interested in all of the authors and what they're doing. So it works both ways. But I get offers all the time to buy mailing lists of people who might want to join the guild or whatever. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make a giant thing. I'm just trying to, so I would rather people joined it as they're interested and they come across it. There's already, I don't know, we had about 400 contacts over the years, and long lists. But not everybody wants to stay as active participants, and I don't blame them. So why should I want to have to, dink around with 1,000 people and try to keep them all happy? And this is much more intimate and more effective, and I like this. So there we are. But I want to help everybody reach out and find the market, find their audience, connect with people. And so, that's what I'm hoping to do in the future. And that idea you'll hear more about the idea of putting out a booklet, a chapbook with different authors' short stories that you can use as a premium. And I will be trying to put that out for you. And I think I can get Steve involved in whacking the pages and he's got one of those power staplers now for doing in the middle. So, and I've got the logo for the guild, which never hardly gets used. So, it's that little guy in the little boat and he's paddling, and it's the sail is a big feather. It's beautiful. I paid big bucks for that, folks. I need to use it somehow or other. So anyway.
Can I make a request?
Sure.
I have 3 projects I'm working on right now. One of them is looking at the emotional impact of writing on the writer. I mean, we talk all the time about creating an emotional response in the reader, but I'm talking about the consequence of writing and the emotional impact of that. The title right now, the working title is Ecstasy Through Agony, the Writer's Odyssey. And the reason what I'm mentioning here is for those of you that have any kind of an emotional response or an epiphany about writing, etc., I just placed my email in the chat. And if you have something that I might be able to use in that book in terms of a quote on, especially on things like rejection from proposals and that kind of thing, or any other kind of an emotional response to that. And this book is generated by the fact that I was rereading one of the books that I wrote that was published 2 years ago, and that it moved me to tears again. And I thought, this is really strange that I know what's going to happen. I know the characters and everything, and yet it still moves me. And you were talking about your characters, Johanna. By the way, I have a cousin, Johanna, in Alaska, so it's not all that rare. But at any rate, if any of you have anything that you'd like to throw in as a possibility for putting it into the book, I would appreciate that.
I know that actors talk about, some of them, particularly method actors, who really do a deep dive into their characters. And when they come back, they have to spend time shedding that persona and try to get back to who they really are, if they can remember. And there's even been surmise, and I won't mention any particular actors, but surmise that some people went so far into their characters they could not come back, and it was depressing, and it took their lives. And so I would hope that none of the writers that I know would have something happen like that, but I'm sure there's a similar effect to any author who works really hard to try to empathize with a character, to try to really take their side and present their case, if you will. And that does, if you attach to that. So, I mean, I attach to reading some characters, and so Herbert, are you trying to say something?
I'm nodding a lot. Well, but when we give classes, little group classes to the urchins in high school and junior high, I let everybody else talk about the actual mechanics of writing. The one thing I always try to emphasize to them is if your mom pisses you off, if your boyfriend breaks up with you, that's when you should be writing. Don't write about that specifically, but take that emotional, your emotions you're feeling and just use that emotions on paper, not necessarily on that subject, but write while you're emotional. You can clean it up later.
And that can come back. I just was, when I was in high school, I wrote an oration. It was about bullying. And then I didn't have the word for it, so I called it character assassination. And with hidden pictures, I come back to that. And I thought that was really interesting that that theme or that experience that would carry forward, that it would inform the work that I was doing many years later, to be able to draw on the emotions from that time of being an adolescent and seeing this kind of stuff going on, especially when at that point, people said, oh, it happens to everybody, or, grow within a thick skin, all that sort of stuff. And now here we are.
And, I suppose, even if you don't just write something, and if you're, feeling, I suppose, even marginally suicidal or whatever, or persecuted, that helps you get over it by putting your emotions on paper.
I think that's probably my problem, because I've been focusing in my later years in calming down and becoming kind of like a Zen Buddhist or a Taoist. Don't let things bother you. Keep your, so, and it for a large part it's work. It's interesting because it's like having your emotions at a maybe a distance. You can see them and look at them and analyze them, and think, now, why would I feel like that? It's a very strange thing to come to a time when you begin to want to know where your emotions, identify them and really know what they are, because we can think, I mean, like they say, fear and anger are connected. And so when people are afraid, they'll become angry. It's a fight or flight kind of reaction. So anyway, I apply all that stuff that I've read, and I go, now where did this emotion come from? Why am I reacting this way to this person or what have you? And what happens though is when you do that, it pulls you out of the actual experience of the emotion. You know what I mean? So I can't sit down and write from that emotional stance because I'm not feeling it. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. It's like once you put your mind in it and start looking at it, somehow the emotion itself shrinks. I don't know if I've discovered some kind of miracle cure for agitation or what, but anyway.
Just look at your keyboard as the dog, you know, and just pretend, look at your keyboard as the dog. So instead of kicking your dog when you're mad, go put it on your paper.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, kids, we're there. We're a little over there. So I suppose we all have lives to get back to and things to go on for. But thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Johanna, for sharing your writing history with us. And thanks for everybody in your comments and pitching in.
Thank you for having me. It's such a treat to be part of this group. I learned so much from everybody. And that's, I think, what we're all about is that we are here to, at least I feel like we're all here and we're supporting each other and helping us be better at what it is we do and we love.
Michelle says, thanks. Sorry I was late. That's okay, Michelle. We're going to have this up on YouTube. You'll be able to catch everything on your own at a later time. Glad you popped in. And I got to say, Johanna, when I worked for the state, I flew to Olympia once a month. And so I do know exactly what you're talking about with the weather and everything. Anyway, thank you all. And I'll be at Coffee with Linda on Saturday if you can make it, and over here at the meeting house. And yeah, bye for now.
Thank
Linda,
you.
can I talk to you?
Bye.
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 Linda,
Yeah.
can I talk to you for a second
Oh, sure.
when we get off?
Yeah. I don't know if Margaret can without me. There she went. There we go. Okay, Joyce. What up? Did you?
Okay, is everybody off?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, you remember part of my book?
Uh-huh.
Okay, remember when I said I was a prisoner in my own house?
Uh-huh.
Guess what I found out last month?
What?
That I know now why they kept me in there. And I asked Lynn, the person who did a lot of the digging for me. She said that when I went to Missouri Baptist Hospital to be born, my mom was going to a free hospital in Missouri.
Mhm.
And Dad paid $100 for me to be born in Missouri Baptist Hospital.
Wow.
And guess what? I was going through some of the papers, getting everything organized, so it's all in one spot in case we have another fire this year.
Uh-huh.
And everything, my brother sent me stuff.
Hold it. Stop. I've got the recording still going. Yeah, I'm going to shut it off now. Is that okay? Because you didn't say
Yeah.
anything specific.